So Airbus 320 is a subsonic medium range commercial aircraft. Okay, it has two high bypass turbofan engines mounted under the wing. This aircraft comes up with a special features. So what are the special features? The first special feature is that it has a fly-by-wire flight controls. Second, it has a composite structure. The aircraft structure is composite. Next is it has a glassed flight deck. And the last and the most important is it has a ECAM. ECAM stands for Electronic Centralized Aircraft Monitoring. So what is this ECAM? Basically, ECAM is a system which shows engine and system parameters. Okay, so ECAM has different function. Very important function of ECAM is that it will show you the engine and system parameter. Second is it will alert the pilot of any malfunctions, and it will also give the guidance to correct that malfunction. Okay, so as we go further with the chapters, you will get a better understanding of ECAM. The next important feature of A320 is that it is capable of CAT-3 approaches. So it is capable of CAT-3 approaches. The next feature is it has auto land feature. So aircraft 320 can automatically land on the runway without any pilot inputs. So it has an auto land feature. Okay, so this was the basic understanding of the aircraft. Let's move forward. Next thing which we will discuss is the crew requirement. So there are two types of crew. First is cockpit crew and second is cabin crew. First we will discuss about the cockpit crew. So minimum 2 pilots are required in the cockpit. There are minimum 2 pilots required in the cockpit. Out of this 2 pilots, one will act as a PF and one will act as a PM. PF stands for pilot flying and PM stands for pilot monitoring. So what are their roles? Pilot flying is the one who will fly the aircraft. Pilot monitoring is the one who will look after the communication, who will do the monitoring of the systems and engine parameters, and who will also cross check all the action which PF is taking. Okay, so he has to monitor the pilot flying also at the same time. So more workload for the PM as a PM. Next thing, okay, so here is PM and here is PF. So PF and PM roles can vary. Okay, let's see the next thing. Observer seat. There are also two observer seat at behind. Okay, so observer seat can be 2 or 1, depends upon the aircraft and company. So this was all about the cockpit crew. Next is cabin crew. Cabin crew, for 320 at least 5 flight attendants are required, but again as per DGCA regulation it varies with respect to numbers of seat. Okay, but for 320 minimum 5 flight attendants are required. Let's move to the next part. Now the next thing which we will discuss is the dimensions. Dimensions of the aircraft. We will discuss 2 dimensions. First is the length and second is the wingspan. Again this dimension will vary with respect to aircraft series. Okay, but just for the general understanding, length of 320 aircraft is 37.57 meters. So length is 37.57 meters. And what is the width? Width is basically the wingspan. Wingspan of an aircraft will be 35.80 meters. So this is the wingspan. Wingspan is 35.80 meters. So you got to remember these values. Now the next important thing which we will see is the minimum turning radius. So what is the minimum turning radius? If this is the runway and the aircraft has to backtrack, or we can say aircraft has to make a 180-degree turn. So if aircraft has to backtrack and line up on the runway, so what is the requirement? Minimum pavement requirement. So the minimum turning radius for making 180-degree turn, minimum turning radius to make 180-degree turn is 24 meters or 79 feet. So this is important to remember. Okay, now the next requirement which we will see is the weights of an aircraft, maximum weight of an aircraft. So first one, maximum taxi weight. So maximum taxi weight is 75,900 kgs. Maximum takeoff weight is 75,500 kgs. Maximum landing weight is 64,500 kgs. And maximum zero fuel weight is 60,500 kgs. So these are all the weights which you need to remember. The next is fuel. How much fuel you can carry in 320 aircraft. So the maximum fuel capacity of the aircraft is 18,728 kgs. So basically aircraft, the 320 aircraft has 3 tanks. One is central tank, one is inner tank, and one is outer tank. So including the fuel of all the 3 tanks, your fuel should not exceed 18,728 kgs. Okay. So this was the maximum fuel requirement. The next thing which we will see is, so aircraft, the 320 aircraft is completely pressurized aircraft, okay, because it flies at a very high altitude. But there are few parts in the aircraft which are unpressurized. So which are those unpressurized part of an aircraft? So the first part is the tail cone, the tail section of an aircraft. It is unpressurized. Second is main gear bay. So landing gear bay or the main gear bay is also unpressurized. Third is air conditioning compartment. Fourth is nose gear bay. And fifth is nose of the aircraft. So these are the parts which are unpressurized compartment. Okay. Rest whole aircraft is pressurized because it flies at a very high altitude, and we know that at a higher altitude there is less pressure. So okay. Now let's move to the next part. So next part is what are the parts of cockpit. So there are, cockpit is divided into 5 parts. First is overhead panel. Second is glare shield. Third is instrument panel. Fourth is pedestal. And fifth is side panel, or we also call it as lateral console. Now what is overhead panel? So this part is the overhead panel. This whole thing is the overhead panel. Okay. Next is glare shield. So this part is the glare shield. Okay. This is glare shield. Then next is instrument panel. So this part is the instrument panel. We will discuss all the parts one by one, okay, in the next video. So this is the instrument panel. Next is pedestal. This is the pedestal. Okay, and the last one is side panel. So this one is the side panel. In side panel we have oxygen and side stick and nose wheel steering. So what all comes in the side panel? Oxygen, side stick, and nose wheel steering. Okay, so we will discuss all of the parts one by one in the next chapter. I hope you like this video. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.